It confirmed Lin suffered from severe delusional disorder, believing her father's spirit had become the pen fairy, always by her side. According to her statements, it was Dad who ordered her to kill A. Wang. However, the psychiatrist offered two insights. First, mentally ill individuals have a distorted but coherent logic system. Lin's desire to kill H-Young must have a reason, a point overlooked in the investigation. Second, H-Young was mentally sound and not coerced, so why didn't she resist when her life was threatened? This is the first time I've seen a case like this, the psychiatrist said to the officers, attempting to lighten the mood. Maybe there really is a pen fairy. But no one laughed. The idea of a pen fairy was absurd. So what was the hidden truth behind this case? Hung decided to reinterrogate Lin for clarity. When asked, Lin smiled, her eyes dreamy. Of course H-Young didn't resist. She had already met my dad. According to Lin, after performing the pen fairy ritual with her in a dimly lit storage room under flickering fluorescent lights, H-Young also met Dad and became her close friend. Though H-Young was fascinated by occult games from four corners to Ouija boards, she had never encountered anything supernatural. Meeting Lin drew her into the pen fairy's mystique. They agreed to keep it secret, telling no one, and each week they sneaked off to play the pen fairy in hidden corners of the storage room or stairwells, where the wind's howl mingled with their whispered summonings. Lin, orphaned by her father's death, craved her mother's affection, but never received it. After her father died in an accident on National Highway 10, her mother quickly remarried. Though she provided for Lin due to societal pressure, she rarely saw her daughter, let alone showed love. Lin grew up in a small house in Tai Nguyen, surrounded by rice fields and suffocating loneliness. H-Young also faced hardship. Her father was bedridden with a terminal illness at VC Hospital, while her mother sold goods at Long Bien Market to support the family. Perhaps due to poverty, her mother placed high expectations on her, controlling her studies harshly and resorting to scolding or beating when dissatisfied. Lin and H-Young, two girls burdened by dysfunctional families, found solace in the pen fairy game. It became the bridge for their friendship, two lonely shadows finding each other in Hanoi's night. We were really close. H-Young was my only friend in the world, Lin said of H-Young, always with a gentle smile, her eyes sparkling like the full moon. That's why I introduced her to Dad. But during one pen fairy session, something went wrong. That night, in a musty storage room under the flickering light of a candle, H-Young asked the pen fairy about her future boyfriend. As soon as she asked, Lin felt the air grow heavy, a cold gust sweeping through. The pen in her hand, controlled by an unseen force, danced wildly, tearing the paper. Lin sensed Dad was angry and quickly pulled H-Young to apologize, forcing her to promise never to seek a boyfriend. Only then did the pen fairy calm down, but it left a blood-like mark on her hand as punishment, red as menstrual blood. From that day, H-Young grew terrified. She refused the promise to never have a boyfriend and suggested stopping the pen fairy game. Losing H-Young, Lin withered, her face pale, her spirit drained. She lost her only friend, and the pressures of life exams, her mother's cold demeanor during calls piled on. She contemplated death. If Dad could become a pen fairy and stay with me, why couldn't H-Young become a pen fairy and stay with me forever? With this thought, Lin sought H-Young, proposing one final pen fairy session in her dormitory room. Hearing this, Hung slammed the table, unable to contain himself. What nonsense is this? Lin is truly insane, obsessed with ghosts and spirits, impossible to reason with. I gazed out the police station window, where the spring sunlight faded on Juan 3 Street. Not entirely. If we ignore the supernatural and assume the pen fairy is Lin's imagination, isn't the motive clear? Lin's feelings for H-Young seem to go beyond friendship. Love turned to hate. Haven't you heard of that? Hung nodded, sipping his tea. Makes sense. Girls' emotions can be terrifying. Isn't that what kids call yander? I was surprised and laughed. You know that term? Before I could tease further, a young officer burst in, voice urgent. Lieutenant Hung, big discovery. What is it? Hung set down his tea, his face serious. We analyzed the evidence and just finished checking Hun's phone. We found a recording from the day of the crime. Due to confidentiality, I couldn't hear the recording, but Hung shared its key contents. It was a call from noon on the day of the crime. Lin invited Acheong to play the pen fairy again that night. Acheong, wary, recorded the call and repeatedly refused, resisting the idea of playing again. Only when Lin said it would be in her dormitory room did Acheong agree, trusting the female dormitory's safety. Most crucially, at the end of the recording, Acheong suddenly said, "By the way, I have something to ask your dad. I've been nauseous and tired lately. I might be pregnant." Hearing this, I couldn't help but curse. What the hell? Two girls, how could one be pregnant? And tied to the dad pen fairy, was it a ghostly pregnancy? Hung shook his head. The autopsy showed no signs of pregnancy. It could be her delusion. But that statement is loaded. Acheong was sane, not seeing the world through Lin's pen fairy lens. Her mention of pregnancy suggests. Before he finished, I caught his meaning and said in unison, "The so-called dad is a real person." Based on this, we realized Lin's statements might have misled us. Her mental condition made us assume she imagined a non-existent dad, the foundation of the case. But now, it seemed more likely that Lin viewed a specific person as the pen fairy dad. This hypothesis clarified many questions about Acheong. Why did she keep playing the pen fairy? Why did the pen fairy get angry when she asked about a boyfriend? Why did she only agree to meet Lin in the female dormitory? Why? There was likely a third person involved in this case, possibly a man. But Lin's real father died 10 years ago in a tragic accident in Tai Nguyen. So who was this substitute dad? Interrogating Lin yielded no results. In her world, dad was the pen fairy, a closed and uncheckable logic, an impregnable fortress. At a dead end, I contacted Nung, asking her to investigate Acheong and Lin's social circles at the university. Unfortunately, Nung's findings were disappointing. Lin was introverted, with minimal interactions, and never spoke to male classmates. Everyone in her class confirmed she had no male friends. Acheong was more outgoing, but her male acquaintances were unrelated to Lin, just casual friends who hung out at tea stalls on weekends. Before we could uncover more, the police made another breakthrough. In Lin's desk drawer, they found a partially burned candle, a prop used in the pen fairy ritual. Analysis by the Institute of Criminal Sciences revealed it contained a small amount of LSD, a hallucinogen causing strong but non-addictive hallucinations. Lin's just a student. Where'd she get a controlled substance? Hung frowned, skeptical. It must have come from that dad. We need to investigate. Someone lurking around the dormitory. Unthinkable consequences. Lin stayed silent about the candle's source, but the police didn't give up. Hung devised a strategy: lure the snake out of its hole. If a third person was involved in the pen fairy sessions besides Lin and Acheong, there must be a fixed location. After the crime, that person might return to erase evidence out of fear. By monitoring and ambushing, they could achieve a breakthrough. The question was, where did Lin and Acheong hold their pen fairy sessions? Hung reviewed campus and nearby Juan 3 Street cameras, using surveillance systems to filter footage of Lin and Acheong. He and his team worked through the night, the investigation room reeking of instant coffee and cigarette ash. 4 officers, each watching 3 screens, fast-forwarded 16 times, slowing down for suspicious moments. By morning, their eyes were bloodshot, the room littered with Red Bull cans, coffee packets, and cigarette butts. "Did you have to push yourselves that hard?" I later asked. Hung sighed, eyes red. The crime happened 2 days ago. News of Lin's arrest must have reached him. Unless he's a seasoned criminal, he'll panic for a while but eventually return to check for evidence. If we don't identify the location and deploy forces before he acts, we'll lose our chance forever. Every second counts. By 5 a.m., they pinpointed the target. Every Saturday at 10 p.m., Lin and Acheong went to the club union's activity room, tucked behind dormitory B2. The activity room was an old 2-story building with peeling paint. hidden behind the dormitory where streetlights didn't reach. No cameras were inside, so the last footage showed Lin and Aiyang entering the main door under a flickering neon light. But the ambush plan hit a snag. The officer's police demeanor stood out starkly in the academic environment, making surveillance difficult. The activity room saw heavy daytime traffic from club meetings and student events, complicating monitoring. Worse, Lin and Aiyang entered at 10 p.m. and left around 11:30 p.m. No third person was seen entering or leaving during that time. Daytime students confirmed leaving before 10 p.m. when the campus darkened and the dormitory locked. Could the mysterious man really be a pen fairy, capable of invisibility or passing through walls?